Across the United States, something unexpected is unfolding on highways, parking lots, and quiet desert roads. From California to Colorado, from Texas to Maine, an entire movement is taking shape. White cargo vans, camper conversions, even retired school buses are being turned into homes. Not by the poor, not by the homeless, but by the middle class. In 2025, van living isn't just a fringe lifestyle anymore. It's becoming a survival strategy, and for some, a reluctant version of the American dream. A movement on wheels, at first glance, the van life phenomenon looks glamorous. Instagram is filled with sunrise shots from mountaintops, cozy interiors, and laptop-on-lap freedom. But behind the filters lies a more complicated reality. Tens of thousands of Americans, working professionals, college graduates, and retirees are trading apartments for vehicles. What began as a counterculture choice has become a middle-class necessity. The numbers tell the story. Since 2020, the cost of housing has outpaced wages in nearly every major U.S. city. Rents have climbed over 40% in some regions. Mortgage rates are the highest in decades. And for many Americans, the math simply doesn't add up anymore. Owning a home is now a dream out of reach. Renting has become unsustainable. And so people are downsizing, not into smaller apartments, but into vans. The economics behind the wheels, at the core of this van living explosion, is a financial reckoning. For decades, the middle class could stretch to afford a modest home, a car, and a vacation once a year. But by 2025, that balance has collapsed. The average U.S. rent for a one-bedroom apartment now exceeds $100 to $800 a month. In cities like Los Angeles or Denver, it's far higher. Meanwhile, converting a used van into a livable home costs around $25,000, sometimes less if done by hand. That's a one-time investment, not a recurring rent payment. So when faced with endless bills or the promise of freedom on four wheels, many are choosing the latter. The van isn't just transportation anymore, it's a home, an escape, and a statement. The new nomads of the middle class meet the new American nomads. They're not drifters. They're not outlaws. They're nurses, delivery drivers, teachers, tech workers, and freelancers. People who still work full-time, sometimes remotely, but can no longer afford fixed housing. Some park in quiet suburban streets, hiding behind tinted windows. Others gather in desert camps or national forests, forming pop-up communities that vanish overnight. They call it stealth camping, sleeping undetected in parking lots or side streets, living quietly and respectfully, moving before sunrise. To outsiders, it looks like freedom. But for many, it's a compromise born of necessity. When the dream meets reality, the online world has glamorized van life. Social media influencers post scenic drives, ocean views, and minimalist perfection. But for every success story, there are thousands of unseen realities. Broken generators. Freezing nights. No running water. Finding a safe place to park can be a daily challenge. City ordinances often ban overnight parking or camping in vehicles, pushing van dwellers into constant motion. And for women and older adults, safety is an ever-present concern. Still, they adapt. Solar panels power laptops and lights. Portable stoves become kitchens. And community, even if temporary, becomes a lifeline. For many, this is not about rebellion. It's about resilience. The housing crisis reaches the middle. When the housing market pushes people into cars, something deeper is broken. Economists point to a structural failure, the widening gap between wages and living costs. In 2025, the U.S. median income has barely kept pace with inflation, while rent and home prices continue to soar. The result? A generation that's working harder but living smaller? Owning property is now replaced by maintaining mobility. For some, van life is temporary, a bridge between jobs or homes. For others, it's the only viable path to financial freedom. But as more middle-class Americans hit the road, the stigma around vehicle living is slowly fading. What was once seen as desperation is now being reframed as adaptation. City crackdowns and quiet communities, not everyone welcomes the trend. Cities from Los Angeles to Portland to Austin are tightening restrictions on vehicle dwelling. New ordinances prohibit overnight parking, and police patrols sweep popular camping spots. Officials argue it's about safety, sanitation, and zoning. Van dwellers argue it's about survival. Meanwhile, rural America is quietly becoming a refuge. Small towns in Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico are seeing growing seasonal populations. Clusters of vans and RVs parked under open skies, forming micro-villages of working nomads. These communities share resources, repair vehicles, exchange food, and even host weekly gatherings. In an age of digital isolation, they've built something rare: connection on the margins. Corporate America and the rise of the remote worker. Another surprising factor driving the van living boom is corporate culture itself. Since the pandemic, remote work has become mainstream. Millions now work entirely online, from customer service to software engineering. Freed from the office, many realized they no longer needed to live in expensive cities. So they packed up, bought a van, and hit the road, turning parking lots into workspaces and national parks into offices. Tech nomads and digital freelancers are redefining what it means to go to work. But even here, the dream is double-edged. Behind every scenic remote workstation is the anxiety of unstable income, lack of benefits, and the challenge of constant motion. The cost of freedom van life offers freedom, but not without cost. Living without a fixed address can make it harder to access medical care, maintain steady mail, or secure employment. Repairs, fuel, and maintenance quickly add up. And loneliness, the kind that settles in on long, silent nights, is often the heaviest price to pay. Still, for many, the trade-off is worth it. Because in a world where rent consumes half a paycheck, freedom, even imperfect freedom, feels priceless. The future on the road experts predict the van living movement will only grow. Some cities are beginning to recognize it not as a nuisance, but as a social shift. Pilot programs in California, Oregon, and Washington are creating safe parking zones, designated lots where people living in vehicles can park legally and safely overnight. Some churches and nonprofits now offer showers, power hookups, and internet for nomadic workers. There's also a growing push toward micro-housing, small, affordable dwellings that offer stability without debt. But until the housing market corrects, the road will remain home for millions. A mirror of America, the van living explosion is more than a lifestyle trend. It's a reflection of what happens when the cost of staying still becomes higher than the cost of leaving. It tells a story about resilience, ingenuity, and the redefinition of what home means. For some, the van is freedom. For others, it's the last resort before homelessness. And for America, it's a question mark. How did the world's richest nation reach a point where middle-class families are living in vehicles? The answer isn't just economic. It's moral. Because when homes become unaffordable and roads become shelters, the dream isn't dying, it's adapting. On any given night, you can drive through a Walmart parking lot or a desert road and see it for yourself. A nation on the move, not by choice, but by necessity. Each van tells a story. A teacher priced out of her city. A retired couple chasing warmth. A programmer working off-grid. They've all traded stability for mobility, permanence for possibility. The van living explosion isn't just about vehicles. It's about survival, creativity, and the quiet courage to start over when the system stops working for you. And maybe, just maybe, it's a sign that America's next revolution won't come from the suburbs, but from the open road.